Hello. Today I thought I'd take the opportunity to share with you some information about my favorite track and field event. And that event is Javelin. I threw Javelin for 4 years in high school and absolutely loved it. It was an amazing opportunity, amazing sport, and I thought I would share with you a little bit so you can see that it's interesting, exciting, a bit dangerous, but also has a long history. Archaeologists have actually found evidence up to 400,000 years ago that javelins were used as a primary hunting tool for Neanderthals. And actually, in Boxgrove, England, a 500,000-year-old rhinoceros shoulder bone has a hole in it, a wound that's consistent with the javelin going through it. I think that's pretty amazing. It's pretty old technology. And in fact, in ancient Greece and Rome, it's believed that the first truly well-known user of the javelin was Hercules, the son of Zeus. Of course, that's a bit of mythology, but it dates back to then. And javelin was one of the events in the 708 BC Olympics. At that time, what the Greeks would do is they would participate in two different events with the javelin. One of them was the same as what we would do today, throwing for distance. That makes sense. Throw it as far as you can. Whoever goes the furthest wins. But the other event that they did that I found completely fascinating was they would throw for accuracy. And not just any kind of accuracy, but accuracy from a moving horse. I know, it sounds crazy, but ride a horse, throw a javelin, closest to the bullseye wins. And javelins back then were about 6.5 feet long, and they had a range of maybe around 100 feet, but to be accurate, you need to be within 50 to 65 feet to actually hit your target. The Norse used javelins for hunting, they used it for war, and the Norse god Odin is actually known to, or depicted, as always having a javelin in hand. Another group, the Vikings, took javelin and javelin throwing extremely serious. At a very young age, young Viking boys and men would be trained on how to throw a javelin. And what was cool about them is they had to learn how to throw it right-handed and left-handed, because they believed that in war, if one of your arms got hurt, you still needed to defend yourself with the other one. They also had to throw it an incredibly long distance because they would actually attack the opposing army from behind their own ranks. So the soldiers would run from behind their own people, throw it over their guys, so that it would hit their opponent. And another group that I personally find interesting because I've been there is many tribes in Africa use javelins as a weapon device. This is one that I brought back from Kenya, and what I wanted to tell you about this is a modified version of a javelin. You can see this is one from today, but this is one that was used in Africa. And the reason that it's short like this is because the great Zulu warrior Shaka actually came up with the idea of shortening the javelin to be a short handheld spear, so that what they could do is in times of war they could actually throw their javelin at their opposing army, and then when they came close they would have short range combat to actually fight their opponent with detachable pieces, so that they would have a multitude of weaponry. And actually Swaziland is a country that has two javelins in their nation's flag. But that's old. That's old news. What I really want to tell you about is modern javelin throwing. In modern days, javelins are used primarily for track and field, not so much for hunting anymore. And it's used as an individual event and also in the heptathlon and decathlon. The IAAF, which is the International Association of Athletics Foundation, has made rules on how javelins work, how big, how long. And basically what you have is a men's javelin is about 8.5 feet long and weighs 1.8 pounds. And a women's javelin is about 7.25 foot long and weighs 1.3 pounds. I know it doesn't sound like much weight, but once you throw it, you kind of get a feel for where the weight is. Javelins also have a grip, a cord grip, that is located at the center of gravity on the javelin. So typically you have your balance spot right in the middle. Javelin has some rules. It's not many, but they're very important because throwing a javelin is actually a dangerous thing, given that it was primarily used for hunting and war. So one of the biggest rules to make a legal throw is, in order to throw a javelin, you have to throw it with your hand, and it has to be over your shoulder, throwing forward. When it comes to throwing javelin, you're not allowed to spin around, throw sidearm, throw backwards, because as you can see, if I were to throw this, I can't see the people behind me. Makes it pretty dangerous. There's also a runway that's about 100 to 120 feet long, and it has an inline. And as long as you don't cross that inline when you throw, and your javelin sticks in the ground, it's a legal throw. Now, to throw a javelin, it requires some speed, strength, and skill. And in the 4 years I threw in high school, I had to develop that and didn't really have an appreciation before I started. But most throwers build up a lot of speed with the sprint, their running start, and javelin throwers are typically built more like sprinters and not so much like a shot put or a discus athlete, who usually are more muscle bound than a javelin thrower. At the release, top javelin throwers, Olympians, have a release speed of approximately 70 miles an hour. And this is what I absolutely love, is when you throw that far and you throw that fast, it goes pretty far. And in 1988, Petra Felke, who is from East Germany, she set the women's world record, which is still standing as an all-time world record, at 262.5 feet. Sounds pretty far. But check this out. On July 10th, 1984, Uwe Hone, also of East Germany, set a record that is now known as the Eternal World Record because of changes that have been made to the javelin, by throwing a javelin 343.8 feet. Now, to put that in perspective, if you were to run from the back end zone of a football field and throw before you got out of the end zone, the javelin would land in the center end zone across the field. Because of that, it was becoming dangerous, more accidents were happening, and so the IAAF basically made rules where they moved the cord further up to make it more likely to come down sooner, stick in the ground, and decrease distance, which would increase safety. So just to let you know, javelin is a fun sport. As I said before, it's very entertaining. It's something that I love, and even though it's a bit dangerous, it's still exciting. I think it's a great skill for anyone to learn in high school, because it provides an opportunity after high school for college scholarships, because not many schools have a javelin program in their track and field. And so if it's something you can learn, it can pay off for you in the future. And I know I've said a lot about this, but I bet you want to see how it works. So forget talking, let's throw. And that's how you throw a javelin.